Hey everyone, Josh Baldwin with Vegan Fit here. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to cut. This is one of the most common topics that comes up with my clients, comes up with people at the gym all the time. Everyone wants to know about, how do you cut properly? So essentially what we're talking about cutting, what does that mean? What that generally means is that we want to try to lose fat as much as you can without losing any muscle, ideally, or losing as little muscle as possible. So is this even a realistic goal? It definitely is. You can cut and basically maintain the amount of muscle that you have. You might lose a little bit here or there. You are going to be losing some calories there. So you might lose a little bit depending on your genetics and depending on your body type. But for the most part, we should be able to cut and keep most of your muscle. First up, we've got to figure out how many calories you burn every day. Let's start off with the workouts. Let's say you do about an hour of weightlifting every day and you go at it pretty hard. You're going to burn about 300 calories. And let's say you do 20 minutes of cardio after that, 20 minutes of intense cardio, you're going to burn about another 200 calories. So we're at 500 calories. That's about what you're going to burn with a pretty standard hour and 20-minute workout with some weights and some cardio built into it. So now that we know how many calories we burn every single day just on the working out, now we got to figure out basically how many calories do we burn just by existing every day. But before we get to that part, just remember here that everyone is very different. Everyone's got different metabolism, different genetics, different setup. So you got to experiment a little bit with the caloric intake and figure out what is actually going to work best for you. Everyone is different. That's one of those rules that you just want to remember, that just because you see some guy on YouTube and that works for him, that might not work for you. You got to play around with this stuff and try to adapt to, see how your body is changing based on these different caloric intakes. To figure out how many calories you burn every day just by living, we're going to use something called a BMR calculator. And this is basically just going to ask you for a couple simple things, your weight and your age, and it just kind of shows you roughly how many calories you're going to burn every day. Again, everyone's different, but this should give you a good idea. Let's take me for example. I'm going to burn about 1,700 calories a day based on the BMR calculator. And let's say I'm going to work out that day like I do most days. I'm going to burn about 500 more calories. So I know that I'm going to burn about 2,200 calories every single day. So we have these numbers figured out, but what does that mean? Well, what we got to figure out in order to cut is how many calories we want to be in a deficit every day to achieve those cutting results. So general guideline on this one is you want to be in about a 500 caloric deficit every day. If you do that, you're generally going to lose about a pound of fat every single week. That's the goal anyway. Now, what I recommend a lot of clients do is just shoot for about 300 calories every day to be in a deficit. That way you're not pushing it too far. You can kind of feel it out and see what happens. But after a couple of weeks of that, if you're not seeing the loss that you want, I would jump up to 500. That's a good number for most people. So using these numbers, I know that I'm burning about 2,200 a day by working out and living, and I want to be in about a 500 calorie caloric deficit those days. So what am I going to do? I'm going to eat about 1,700 calories. That's going to be my goal. I don't need to go too crazy. A lot of people want to go like 1,200 calories, 1,000 calories a day. You don't need to do that. You don't need to starve yourself. You don't need to be, malnourished in order to cut. You just need to cut about 400 or 500 calories every day. So for me, I would shoot for about 1,700 calories every single day that I basically want to cut. Make sure when you are experimenting with these different caloric deficits that you pay attention to your body, see the way you feel. Make sure they don't affect your body too much and affect your workouts. So just because you're, in a caloric deficit, that's a good thing. But if your workouts are suffering because of it, let's say you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough carbs, you just don't have it at the gym because you went into like a 500 or 600 caloric deficit every day. Well, maybe you don't need to go in that deep in a caloric deficit. Maybe only do 200 or 300 because your workouts are important. And if you're going to slack in the gym just because you're low on calories, that's not helping anything. Now remember, these calories need to be coming from whole foods if you really want to get an effective cut going. If you're in a caloric deficit every day, but you're eating all shit, you're eating like Oreos and stuff like that, all those saturated fats, you're still going to get some fat storage and you're not going to be able to burn a lot of those calories and use them for energy. So that caloric deficit might be a little bit misleading. So make sure you're trying to focus on whole foods. That doesn't mean you can't ever eat any kind of bad food, but just make sure the bulk of your diet is coming from whole foods. The last element of trying to figure out what kind of foods to eat and how to eat them is trying to figure out your macronutrient breakdown. This is a really big problem for a lot of people. It can be really confusing. So I'll keep it really simple for you. This is a good guideline. Again, everyone's a little bit different. But in general, for vegans and non-vegans alike, I would shoot for about 50% of your calories to come from carbs, good whole food carbs. I would shoot for about 35% to come from protein and about 15% to come from fat, maybe even a little bit less. And make sure those fats are good, healthy fats, not a bunch of oils and stuff like that. Ideally, you might even get that number down to like 12 or 10. That's even better, right? If you're doing a bulk, obviously things are very different. That high fat can be, really good for a bulk. But for a cut, keep it down under 15% of your calories. So I hope this video helps you guys out if you're starting on a cut or you're not sure exactly how to do it. Hopefully this helps you understand how your body works and how to make those adjustments to make sure you're getting the most out of your cut. You don't want to be cutting for 3 or 4 months, working hard and not getting very good results. It's just a waste of time. That's time you could be spent bulking, right? So work on that cut. And again, experiment with those caloric intake that you got every day. Maybe go 200 calorie deficit one day, maybe do a 500 calorie deficit one day. Play around with it and see what gives you enough energy to sustain a solid, strong workout and figure out where you need to be. Everyone is totally different. That BMR calculator, much like a BMI calculator, is not a precise instrument. It's basically just a rough guess on how many calories you burn every day. So hope you guys like the video. Hopefully it helps you out. Let me know down in the comment section if you guys have any questions at all. If you want to see more videos like this, definitely let me know. Hit the like button, please. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell down there so you get notified when the new videos come up. And I'll see you guys at the next video.
Shut down.